principals, and welcome to the NAESP Principal Podcast. My name is Rachael George. I'm an educational leader in Oregon and an NAESP fellow.
And my name is Adam Welcome. I'm an educator in California and a fellow with NAESP in the Innovation Center.
Hey, so Adam and I were always just so excited to bring you all this episode of the NAESP Principal Podcast so we can talk about real ideas with amazing principles to help make your leadership stronger and more innovative. In fact, we've already hit over 50 episodes, which we're super excited about. And I just came out of an NAESP State of the Union meeting where we've had record downloads with this podcast. So we're just super stoked that you're here with us, learning, leading, and joining us for some innovative fun.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to think about 50 episodes over the last year and a half. We just so let's start the podcast. Let's start talking to people. And it starts from there. And today we have Donna McGuire from PS 18. That is Public School 18, Park Terrace, New York. She's the assistant principal, community of practice facilitator. Donna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rachael and Adam. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this podcast, and congratulations on celebrating your 50th anniversary of podcast.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. So Donna, for the people out there that just don't know who you are, give us a little background and kind of bring everybody up to speed on just kind of what you've done professionally. Also, just kind of maybe what you do with NASP and how involved you are.
Oh, sure. So my name is Donna McGuire. I'm the proud assistant principal at PS 18 in New York City. It is the most northern school in Manhattan. It's a local community school, and I have been an assistant principal in Washington Heights there for over 15 years. And as Adams mentioned, I am the national facilitator for the NAESP Assistant Principal Community of Practice.
So I have a question about the whole naming of schools in New York. Yes. I went to Columbia University years ago for a Readers and Writers Workshop, Teachers College. And I kind of got the whole flavor of PS2, PS3. Is there any, do people get jealous that their school is just a number? I mean, a lot of yours is Park Terrace School, but I think a lot are just a number. Why is it? Is it just because there's so many schools, they just give it a number and not a name? Do you know the history of that?
Well, years ago when they started the first public school, it was PS1 down in Lower Manhattan, Chinatown area. And as I don't, I've asked that question many times myself, but schools were just assigned numbers, right? And a lot of them did not have names associated with it. It was just a number. And then they started giving it a name to give some kind of recognition, because a number is a number and we don't know where that number resides, right?
Sure.
So in New York City, believe it or not, there's another 2 schools, PS 18. So I made it a point to start calling us the PS 18 Park Terrace School, because we are located very close to Park Terrace East and West. And if anyone knows the geography in Northern Manhattan, they'd say, oh, I know where that is. But also, how they do it in New York City is your district, there's about 35 districts, and your district number goes first. So we're 06. 6 means Washington Heights, Northern Manhattan. Then it's M for Manhattan, 06M, 018. So if you were maybe a middle school in Queens, you might start out with 25Q, Q for Queens, and then MS 25 or 025. Yeah, so kind of the numbers do mean something.
Yeah.
But with the name, it helps. But if you don't have a name, it's wrong.
Yeah. No, I just always thought every school is name something, and it's symbolic of the region or somebody in the state.
No, not really.
I was just wondering. So let's talk about the assistant principal community of practice. What does the group do? And you're the practice facilitator. What does that job involve?
Well, as educational leaders, we understand how important it is to be part of a community and the impact it can have on the individuals within it, right, Adam? So the AP Community of Practice is really a collective of APs around the country. We Zoom to connect. We learn from one another. We talk about best practices and really whatever comes to mind. And every month we focus on a different topic. We share articles and resources related to it. And we also, during the meeting, put articles, resources in the chat, and we also include it on our member portal in Canvas. which is another perk of being a member of NAESP.
Yeah. How many members do you have currently in the community of practice?
Well, we have, I think, 169 members that are assistant principals. Not everyone has signed up for the AP community of practice, but they've been rolling in. And not everyone attends, but we do have a good group. We have a core group, and then we have people that come in and float out. Sometimes your child has soccer practice or a PTA night or a parent-teacher conference. You know how it goes. But there's, they always let us know, and they always ask what they miss. And we always post that information up there so they don't really miss much. And we also do connect offline, not just with these meetings, so they can always drop in, send a text, an email, phone call, and we communicate. And it's been a really wonderful community, I must say.
Yeah. How did you get originally involved with NAESP? And if somebody's listening and they want to get involved in the community of practice or just in NAESP in general, kind of like, what was your pathway? Just trying to dovetail on that first question.
Oh, I'd love to tell you about it. So 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, I started with assistant principals with Quetta Jones, and now she's moved on to being a principal, and she's leading the early career principal practice. But there was a women's group, Women in Leadership, for the Confidence Code. And I guess a year or two ago, we met to talk about the Confidence Code, and they were looking for facilitators. I said, I'd be happy to do that. And I led the group. I met some fantastic ladies across the country, and we became very tight. And at the end of last June, I got a phone call about the upcoming book study. And I said, I already bought the book. I love it. I read it in 2 days. And it's also by chance Rachael's book, right? As she leads, and I love it. I love it. And I said, yeah, I read it. And they said, well, we're glad you read it, but we're calling you about something else. I said, what is that? And they said, would you be interested in learning and working with the AP community practice? And I said, well, I was wondering how I would juggle both. And then they said, do exactly what you did with the book study. And I said, okay. So I started doing that. And one of the ladies, Katie Kennedy, that was in my book study, said, Katie, why don't you be a facilitator this year? And she's like, really? And I said, sure. And I also wrote an article about her. It was just, the book was inspiring the Confidence Code. And in my article, I wrote about Katie and Quetta, and that got published. And, synergy creates synergy. She got excited. She started writing articles. She's leading it. And this summer, she's also going to present at the upcoming NAESP conference.
Nice. Such amazing things. Great trends and themes of connecting, lifting each other up, right? Like women pulling each other up and not having that scarcity mindset. So many great lessons and morals with what you just shared. So thank you, Donna. You mentioned the article that you wrote, but there was another article that you wrote for NAESP about 2 years ago. And it was specifically on 7 tips on how APs can master time management. And would you mind giving us maybe your top 2 out of that 7? Because time management isn't just something that perhaps APs might wrestle with. I think it's across the board with all educational leaders. So what are your top 2?
Create a schedule and do your best to stick to it. Create a list and revisit it. Don't beat yourself up if you don't get it all done, but, start another day, a new way, and keep plugging along and trying to make it happen, and it will happen for you. But, when you schedule things out, it really does make a difference.
Mm-hmm. So that's one. What's your second one there, friend?
Let me think about it. You know what? Work with your principal in tandem. Tell her or him about your goals and, share the goals and work on it together. Because sometimes when you're in the weeds, you need help to get out of it and, take it from someone else who's another administrator and how to work that out.
Yeah, that's so important. Do you ever add on? You talked about building a community of people from across the country. How often do you call up another assistant principal in Kentucky or Florida or Oregon and you're like, "Hey, I got this thing going on. What do you think?" or talk it through, or do you just go directly to your direct principal?
No, that's a really good question. Maura Clinton Jones up in Conway, New Hampshire. I call her all the time. In fact, I know she's an early riser. She's at work at 6:30. I'm in the car driving. We met through the AP community of practice a couple of years ago, and we'd call each other every Monday morning. But she's like, you don't have to wait for Monday. It could be anytime.
Mm-hmm.
And we do, especially during pandemic when we were trying to figure out how to cover classes and get subs. And we had a lot of the same issues, even though she's in a small rural school and I'm in a larger urban school. We still had a lot of the same issues, but we've become very tight along the way. And I must say that has been my experience with a lot of people through NAESP, because we're like-minded people. We care about what we do. We're passionate about it. And it creates an energy and you feed off each other. So I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, let's talk about the NAESP Principal Conference. I know you were in Louisville last year. Are you going this summer to Maryland? And why should other assistant principals that are listening to this podcast go? It is not just for people that are in the principalship. It's for aspiring assistant principals, but especially current assistant principals. Talk about your experience and why other people should go.
Okay. Well, I was at a conference at National Harbor about 4 years ago. I loved it. It's a great conference location. But when I went to Louisville last year, drove down there, was excited. I didn't know what to expect. And it truly was amazing. There are so many quality PD sessions packed up in every day. They have it by strand. The keynotes, they're interesting, they're motivating, and you will feel very pumped from the moment you start. There are breakouts by the zones, right? So you can meet other areas and other people in your own regional area. And we can meet up with the people we connect with during the year. So whether you're in an AP community practice or a member of any of the other NASP communities, you can connect in person. And a lot of people do that way. The vendors, there was a full floor of vendors. They had takeaways, free ideas, resources and materials, and you glean a lot from that conference. There's also an area that sells books and resources, which I was very impressed with. So many titles there. And the one thing I have to say about National Harbor is that it's very family friendly. So if you bring your family, there's going to be plenty to do there. They have outlets, a beautiful town, the Ferris wheel. There's lots to do. So,
what a great commercial you have, Donna, for for the area.
I tell everybody, go. You won't be upset. And then you know what? If and then there's CTLE credits or CU credits. I think nationally they call that, right? And every year schools have money set aside for professional development. Mm-hmm. And if assistant principals talk to their principal and say, listen, why don't we go as an administrative team? That's powerful too, because you can hit up some workshops together, some you want to differentiate based on the needs, and then you come back and talk about it. So I would highly recommend it. And I really hope that I meet up with a lot of women in the Women in Leadership, because I'm involved in that, and with the AP community of practice, of course.
Yay. Well, I would say your chances are highly likely to have that.
I hope so.
I feel like remember the chance of meatballs, kid story. I feel like your chance is extremely high for meatballs and spaghetti and the whole gamut. But Adam and I will be there, so you can hang out and meet us. And I know Andrea and Jessica with the Center for Women in Leadership will be there. They usually have a women's luncheon. So
yes, I attended. Yeah.
All right. So thinking of books and connecting and some of the different book talks that you've helped facilitate, what are you currently reading and what's your favorite leadership book?
Okay. I want to tell you a leadership resource that I think is fantastic for assistant principals, because, it's Assistant Principal Week and we want to make sure we focus and highlight. There's a research document out there for assistant principals. It's called The Role of Assistant Principals, Evidence and Insights for Advancing School Leadership. And it was published 2 years ago, April 2021, by the Wallace Foundation. And it is a compilation of about 20 years of research with over 79 studies. And it talks about how there are more APs now than 20 years ago. And that's true in New York City as well. The typical roles, the responsibilities of the APs, and how they're being prepared and groomed for the role of the principal, because it's not always the same in every school, right? It talks about how APs impact school culture. And if you're wondering where to find it, you can find it on the NAESP website. And if you're a member of the AP Community of Practice and you're listening, you can find it on our Canvas portal under resources. But what I'm reading right now is, I love trade magazines also. The School Administrator Association of New York State, SANES, just released their winter edition, the winter 2023 of Vanguard magazine last week. And there are many articles from school administrators around the state discussing this month of what is still getting them stuck in the new normal after the pandemic. So each article has resources and ideas. And one example is an article called Stuck in the Moment, Pivot. So this author is giving resources to help change the mindset and keep it positive, because, maybe it's a slow start and some people are getting frustrated with it. And that's why this magazine was called, What Keeps Us Stuck. But awesome. If you want a fun read, go back to If You Don't Feed the Teachers, They Eat the Students, A Guide to Success for Administrators and Teachers. That's always a fun one, right?
Yeah, thanks for those shout outs. Those are some great resources. Donna, who is someone that is on your staff that you would like to give a shout out to on the podcast?
Ooh, my gosh. I would like to give a shout out to my principal, Miss Connie Mejia. She has been an educator for over 30 years, a principal for over a decade. She's passionate about what she does. She smiles every day. She cares about everybody. And she really has developed a culture at our school that is bar none to any other school I worked in. I love my school. I love her. I love the staff. I love everything about it. It's a big love fest, Adam.
Well, I think like you said, she smiles every day. I mean, if you just smile every single day, just starts your day better. The kids feed off that. It's contagious. Hey, if you want to meet Donna, go to NAESP.org, go sign up for the conference. I think I waited too long to go to my first national conference. I should have gone earlier. I went to my state conferences, which are so valuable, so important. Rachael for a long time has been involved with her state organization. I was too. And then I just kind of graduated to the big playground of the NAESP conference, and it will change your life. Donna is 100% on board, and there's the outlets. I think the beaches are closed. The weather's going to be great in Maryland. Go to NAESP.org. Donna McGuire, PS 18, Park Terrace School, New York, assistant principal, and the facilitator of the Assistant Principal Community of Practice. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for all you do at your school and with NAESP. It's people like you that really hold everything together, and you get more people involved. You can get them connected, and you meet people, and you're like, hey, I have an opportunity for you, just like me, just like Rachael. And then you kind of get fed into the organization, and it's just better for everybody. Donna McGuire, thank you so much on behalf of Rachael, myself, NAESP. Everybody, thanks for listening. Happy Assistant Principal Week, and we hope that you have an amazing day.